Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're putting on our detective hats, and honestly, we're doing something incredibly fun. We're not just looking at a spreadsheet of data, we're taking a static, seemingly ordinary GitHub profile and treating it like a full-blown digital forensics case study. I mean, think about it. A developer's open-source footprint isn't just some storage locker for code, right? It is a living, breathing ledger. It shows us their habits, their interest, their absolute expertise, and even their daily work schedule. By zooming in on those little digital breadcrumbs left behind in commit histories and pull requests, we can build this surprisingly accurate professional profile. So strap in, because we are going deep into the digital matrix today.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like how much of your actual professional identity is exposed out there in your open source footprint? If someone were to just casually scroll through your public logs right now, what kind of story would they tell? Well, for today's investigation, we're turning our magnifying glass onto one specific developer. They go by the username HuckHucking on GitHub, also known as Juice. Now, to the untrained eye, Juice's profile might look like just another standard repository page, but to us, it is an absolute treasure trove of data just waiting to be decoded.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We're going to start with the digital identity, check out their repositories and AI interests, then move on to decoding the contribution graph. After that, we go inside the pull requests, and finally, wrap it all up with the developer dossier.
Section 1. The digital identity.
Boom! 34. That is the number of public repositories attached to Juice's account. Right out of the gate, this establishes some serious credibility. We aren't looking at some burner account or a profile created just to lurk around, you know? With 34 repos, we've got a developer who is actively utilizing the platform to store, manage, and really showcase a solid volume of work.
But hey, we know it's not just about quantity, right? It's about how the community reacts. And Juice has racked up 79 stars across those repositories. Now, in our world, a star is basically a digital nod of approval. It means someone else looked at that code and thought, yeah, this is valuable. So 79 stars, that indicates some genuine peer interest. People are absolutely paying attention to what Juice is building.
Now, checking out the bio, we see 3 followers and 10 following. So pretty quiet on the social networking front. But look at that last detail. An ORCID integration, specifically an ID ending in 1183. Now, if you aren't familiar with ORCID, it stands for Open Researcher and Contributor Identifier, and it's used almost exclusively in the academic and scientific communities to identify authors of research papers. Finding this link completely shifts our whole perspective. It strongly hints that Juice isn't just your standard software engineer. We're likely looking at someone with a heavy academic, scientific, or professional research background. It just adds this entirely new layer of depth to the whole footprint. Moving right along to Section 2, Repositories and AI Interests.
So, looking at the portfolio, Juice's current focus has this fascinating kind of dual nature to it. On the AI side of things, we're seeing a massive lean into artificial intelligence. I mean, Juice has forked the official Claude plugins repo from Anthropic, plus Google's Skills repository for AI agents. So they are right there actively monitoring and probably experimenting with some seriously cutting-edge AI integrations. But then on the design and framework side, there's this equally intense focus on front-end frameworks and user experience. We see things like an example Next.js build and a fork of awesome design tools. So what does this tell us? It shows us Juice operates right at that sweet spot, the intersection of complex back-end AI logic and beautifully polished front-end Next.js frameworks. They care about the heavy lifting of the AI, but they definitely care about how it actually feels for the end user too.
Section 3. Decoding the contribution graph.
You know, I always say a contribution graph is basically a behavioral polygraph test. Over the last year, Juice made exactly 72 contributions. Now, on the surface, you might be thinking, okay, that seems a bit modest for someone with 34 repos. But hold that thought, because as we're about to see, the raw number isn't the real story here. It's the highly unusual timeline of exactly when those 72 contributions happened that cracks his whole case wide open.
I mean, just listen to this stark contrast. Throughout the entire winter and spring, there are practically 0 commits. The graph is just a ghost town. But then, the second the weather warms up, the profile absolutely explodes into action. We're talking massive Vercel, Next.js, and CI/CD sprints all throughout the summer of 2026. It's like we're dealing with a summer seasonal coder here. You really gotta wonder, does Juice just hibernate with their laptop slammed shut all winter, only to wake up and run a coding marathon the minute July hits? Honestly, considering that academic ORCID link we found earlier, it is highly probable we're looking at a student or a professor who literally only has the bandwidth for heavy development when summer break rolls around.
So the sprint kicks off pretty slow in June, just a few scattered commits around the 8th, 9th, and 18th. July starts picking up some serious momentum. But then, jumping into August 2026, the activity just spikes massively. Pull requests are flying open, code is getting merged left and right, and the sheer density of the work is incredible. This wasn't just casual weekend tinkering, folks. This was a dedicated, heads-down, high-focus marathon. So let's pivot and figure out exactly what Juice was building during this intense August sprint.
Which brings us to Section 4, Inside the Pull Requests. Okay, let's get into the weeds with a specific merge here. Pull request number 1 on the Juiced Up repo from August 7th. Just the title of this PR is a gold mine. Juice is dropping in a comprehensive CI/CD or continuous integration and continuous deployment pipeline workflow. And check out the tool stack. We've got Black, iSort, and Flake8 for some seriously aggressive code formatting and linting. But they don't stop there, no way. They add Bandit and Safety for security scanning. Then they throw in Docker build steps, complete with Postgres and Redis services spun up just for testing. This is huge. It proves that Juice absolutely does not cut corners. Even on what look like personal side projects, they are enforcing enterprise-grade CI pipelines and rigorous security checks. This is the hallmark of a highly disciplined, mature developer who treats their codebase with total professional reverence.
Just a few days later, on August 10th, over in a repository called Hustle Omega OS, Juice drops a major version bump, upgrading the project from Next.js version 14.2.35 all the way up to 16.2.12. Now, this tells us two very important things. First, Juice actively maintains their older projects. They aren't just building something once and abandoning it to rot. And second, they are fully committed to modernizing their tech stack. I mean, we all know upgrading across major Next.js versions can be a massive headache with breaking changes, but Juice, they're clearly very comfortable riding the bleeding edge of React frameworks.
When you piece together that sequence of August pull requests, it reveals this incredibly methodical workflow. Step 1, build and update the core application in Next.js. Step 2, immediately integrate performance tracking. We actually see multiple PRs dedicated entirely to plugging in Vercel speed insights and web analytics. And finally, Step 3, lock the whole thing down. Enforce strict CI/CD linting and security checks before a single line of code goes anywhere near production. I gotta say, it is a textbook, virtually flawless approach to modern web deployment.
And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, the Developer Dossier.
So, the crucial point is this. Based purely on the open source evidence we've gathered, Juice is a modern, AI-adjacent, full-stack developer who places a massive premium on enterprise-grade security. And, of course, intense summer coding sprints. We're looking at a developer who clearly understands the academic world, thanks to that ORSAG rank, who experiments with bleeding-edge AI agents, but who ultimately ships these rock-solid, beautifully linted Next.js applications, mainly when the academic year cools down and the summer heats up. It's just this fascinating, deeply human story, and it was told to us entirely through data, commits, and pull requests.
Which leaves us with one final and, honestly, pretty provocative question. Now that you've seen firsthand just how much can be deciphered from a static profile, what does your own contribution graph say about your work habits, right? Like if we were to put your public open source ledger under this exact same microscope, what kind of digital dossier would we end up building? It's definitely something worth thinking about the next time you hit push. Thanks so much for joining me on this digital forensics investigation, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.